Hello friends, welcome to Biotech Academy. Today we'll start with the second chapter of class 11th biology, which is biological classification, and this set of lectures is for NEET aspirants. So we'll begin with biological classification, and we'll discuss all the classes, all the types of classification in detail now. So to begin with, what is classification basically? So basically the word means to categorize a lot of things into different groups for easy understanding and easy monitoring of those groups. So biological classification means grouping of various life forms, various categories of various groups of various organisms into different groups. So biological means living organisms and classification is categorizing. So basically this is categorizing or the study of grouping of various life forms into different groups based on set of similarities or dissimilarities. You categorize a group of organisms or like different species into one group based on certain set of features which are common in those different species, and you can place another set of species into different group because there are a number of you can give certain remarks that those species which are belonging to say group A should possess these qualities. So that is what biological classification is all about. Means a process of making different groups based on a set of similarities or dissimilarities. That is biological classification, and the first type of biological classification was given by Carolus Linné. Carolus Linné, he was the one who proposed binomial nomenclature, and he was the first to make groups of various life forms or various living organisms into two groups. What were the groups? So basically he gave two kingdom classification. Two kingdom classification. So the first kingdom is kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. So according to this classification, which was proposed by Carolus Linné, there were he categorized all the life forms into two groups: kingdom Plantae, which contain all the plant species, and kingdom Animalia, which contains all sorts of animals. But then there are majority of or a lot of disadvantages which are associated with this classification. So by now you must be knowing that there are unicellular as well as multicellular organisms. Then there are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So does this two kingdom classification takes into consideration these things? No, it doesn't take into account about prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but there is a huge difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So this what are the disadvantages which are associated with that it doesn't take into account, but the pitfalls which are associated with this classification are: first is it doesn't take into account prokaryotes versus eukaryotes. It doesn't take into account these differences. Then it also doesn't consider any difference between unicellular or multicellular organisms. And the third difference is it also doesn't take into consideration or it doesn't take into account the differences between photosynthetic or non-photosynthetic organisms. So these are, but then these three are the major pitfalls which led to the failure of this type of two kingdom classification. And then this two kingdom classification was overtaken by another classification which was proposed by R.H. Whittaker and which was widely accepted. is 5 kingdom classification. Okay, so next, because of the shortcomings which was in 2 kingdom classification, so then the next was 5 kingdom classification. 5 kingdom classification which was proposed by R.H. Whitaker. You must know these names. Alright, and what the five, according to the 5 kingdom classification, what were the kingdoms? Kingdom Monera, which is the lowest, then Kingdom Protesta, and then Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plantae, and Kingdom Animalia. So these are the 5 kingdom classification which was proposed by R.H. Whitaker. And what all features did he take into account in order to categorize the life forms into 5 different groups? The first was cellular organization, based on cellular organization. First property which he took into consideration was the cellular organization, whether these are unicellular or multicellular, then they have prokaryotic organization, or the cells are prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Then the second was thallus organization. The second category is thallus organization. Then their mode of nutrition, whether they are autotrophic or heterotrophic, they are photosynthetic or not. So the third criteria which he considered was the mode of nutrition. Okay, so the first was cellular organization, then thallus organization, then mode of nutrition, then their phylogenetic relationship, and fourth is phylogenetic relationship. And what is phylogeny? Their evolutionary, how did those species evolved? So their phylogenic relationship, and fifth is their mode of reproduction. So these are the 5 features which R.H. Whitaker considered or took into consideration in order to categorize all the life forms into these 5 categories, and we'll discuss about each kingdom in detail. So 5 kingdom classification proposed by R.H. Whitaker, which is widely accepted, and which are Kingdom Monera, which is the lowest, then followed by Kingdom Protista, then Kingdom Fungi, Kingdom Plantae, and Kingdom Animalia. These are the 5 kingdoms which were into which all the living organisms were grouped, and the categories, or the characteristics which were considered were cellular organization, thallus organization, then their mode of nutrition, then their fourth is phylogenetic relationship, and fifth one is their mode of reproduction. So these are the 5 kingdoms, and we'll discuss about each in detail now. Coming to the first kingdom, which is Kingdom Monera. So what all organisms are included in Kingdom Monera? So bacteria are the most important. We are discussing about Kingdom Monera, and bacteria are the most important members of this kingdom. So bacteria are the most important members, and the second important characteristic is that all the monerians are prokaryotic, means they do not possess a well-defined nucleus which is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. So all monerians are prokaryotic. And what is prokaryotic? So prokaryotic, it is made up of 2 words, pro and karyon. So karyon is derived from Greek word, and it means nucleus. So pro means primitive, and karyon means nucleus. So the word means the cells which do not contain a well-defined nucleus, and which is the nucleus, they do not have a nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. So that is not a well-defined nucleus. So these are prokaryotes, whereas eukaryotes means they do possess a well-defined nucleus. So the criteria for all the cells is on the basis of the presence or absence of a well-defined nucleus. So the cells are divided into two types, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So all the monadians are prokaryotic in nature. Alright, so now the third important point about these is that their mode of nutrition, which is they can be, they include both autotrophic or heterotrophic, and they also contain, so these monadians also, they include bacteria and blue-green algae. Then the mode of respiration, so the respiration could be either aerobic or anaerobic. If you understand the meaning of aerobic and anaerobic means, aerobic means respiration in the presence of oxygen, and anaerobic is respiration in the absence of oxygen. So that is anaerobic. Aerobic means with oxygen, anaerobic means without oxygen. So the respiration could be either aerobic or anaerobic in these monadian groups. Then they can be also autotrophs or heterotrophs, or they can sometimes also be parasitic in nature. So they can be autotrophs or heterotrophs, or they can also be parasitic sometimes. Okay, so these are the important characteristics of kingdom Monera. Then they do not have a cell wall. They do not have a cell wall, and then the movement, how do these monadians move? Their movement is not, they do not have cilia, they only have flagella. So the movement is due to flagella. Alright, and these how does the exchange of nutrients and gases occur? That is because of due to diffusion. So exchange is due to diffusion. So these are some of the important characteristics of kingdom Monera, that bacteria are the most important members. Then most of all the monadians are prokaryotic in nature. It includes bacteria and blue-green algae. The respiration could be either aerobic or anaerobic. They can be autotrophs or heterotrophs, or sometimes they can also be parasitic in nature. They do not have a cell wall, and the movement is due to flagella. And the last characteristic is that exchange of gases or nutrients is because of is by the process of diffusion. So, and then these Monera are further categorized. They are further categorized into two, which is Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. Alright, so these are further divided into Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. So Archaebacteria, what are Archaebacteria? They can be either those which exist as thermoacidophiles, halophiles, or they can also be methanogens. So what are thermoacidophiles? They can live in hot springs. What are halophiles? That are those bacteria which can survive in high salt concentration. They are known as halophiles. And methanogens means the bacteria which produce methane gas. So the Archaebacteria includes these bacteria, and the cell wall structure, the structure of the cell wall as well as the composition of the cell wall of these Archaebacteria is different from the other members of kingdom Monera. So this is about Archaebacteria. Then we come to Eubacteria. Eubacteria are also known as true bacteria. Eubacteria is also known as true bacteria. Then they have the movement. The difference is that their presence of motile flagella, and they have motile flagella. They have motile flagella and a rigid cell wall, and rigid cell wall, and it includes it includes cyanobacteria, which are also known as blue-green algae, or you can also abbreviate as BGA. So what are eubacteria? Eubacteria, true bacteria. They have motile flagella and a rigid cell wall, and they mostly include cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. And these what are these cyanobacteria? How they are different? That these are plant-like and they contain photosynthetic pigment, which is chlorophyll. So they are autotrophic in nature, and they are unicellular filamentous algae. So these are unicellular filamentous algae. And apart from these archaebacteria and eubacteria, this kingdom Monera also includes mycoplasma. What are mycoplasma? Mycoplasma are smallest living organisms, and They do not have a cell wall, and they can exist in anaerobic, and they can exist in anaerobic conditions also. So this is apart from these eubacteria and archaebacteria, it also includes mycoplasma, and then the last member of this kingdom Monera is chemosynthetic autotrophs. So what are chemosynthetic? Chemo means chemicals. So what is the characteristic of these chemosynthetic autotrophs, Monerians? That they have the ability to oxidize nitrites, nitrates, etc. And the energy which is released from the oxidation, that energy is used to produce ATP, and ATP is the energy currency of the cell. So that is why they are autotrophs, because they derive their energy, or they produce their ATP by oxidizing chemicals, by oxidizing nitrates, etc. So that is why they are known as chemosynthetic autotrophs. So these are some of the important members of kingdom Monera. Next we'll discuss about the second kingdom, which is kingdom Protista. So the second kingdom is kingdom Protista, and it contains unicellular eukaryotic organisms. So that is the difference between that is the most important difference between kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista, is that kingdom Monera includes all the prokaryotes, whereas kingdom Monera, it includes unicellular. So unicellular is important and eukaryotic is important. So although it contains eukaryotes, but then it doesn't contain multicellular eukaryotes. It only contains unicellular eukaryotic organisms. They are mostly the organisms which belong to kingdom Protista. They are mostly aquatic. They are mostly aquatic in nature. For example, algae. You must have seen greenish color near like fresh water or stagnant water, green shades. Those are algae, and these algae, they are the primary producers in aquatic. They are primary producers in aquatic system. And they are primary producers in aquatic system, and they are photosynthetic in nature. Then the respiration could be aerobic or anaerobic, and the reproduction could be both, either sexual or asexual, and it contains both cilia and flagella for locomotion. So these are the important characteristics of kingdom Protista, that they contain. This kingdom contains unicellular eukaryotic organisms. They are mostly aquatic in nature, like algae. Then the respiration could be aerobic or anaerobic. Then reproduction could be sexual or asexual, and the movement is via cilia and flagella actually. Whereas the organisms which belong to kingdom Monera, they only contain flagella. They do not possess cilia. So these are the important characteristics of kingdom Protista, and this kingdom is further divided into 5 groups. Okay, and those are this is divided into 5 further groups, and which are chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime moulds, and fifth is protozoans. So these are the subgroups in kingdom Protista, and we'll start with chrysophytes. So what are the features of the organisms which belong to chrysophytes? Okay, chrysophytes, they mostly contain diatoms and golden algae. So they contain diatoms and golden algae. They are majorly found in freshwater or marine system. Okay, then their cell wall is impregnated with, the cell wall has a coating of silica, or you can also say that it is impregnated with silica, and then they are major producers in oxygen. So they are major producers in oxygen. So these are some of the important points about chrysophytes. They include diatoms and golden algae. They are mostly freshwater or marine. They colonize into freshwater or marine system. Then their cell wall is impregnated with silica. They are major producers in ocean, and they are mostly photosynthetic in nature, and that is why we say that they are major producers in oceans. Okay, so these are some of the important characteristics of chrysophytes. Next we move to dinoflagellates, which is the second member of kingdom Protista, dinoflagellates. And the important features of these dinoflagellates are that they are marine and photosynthetic in nature. So they are marine and photosynthetic in nature. They can be of different color, like maybe yellow, brown, or blue, because they may contain different pigments which impart these colors. So they may be of various colors like yellow, brown, or blue due to pigments. So different pigments give different colors, and that is why they may be of different colors like yellow, brown, or blue. Then their cell wall is made up of cellulose. Their cell wall is composed of cellulose. And another feature is that they are biflagellate, means they contain 2 flagella. They are biflagellates, which is one of the important characteristics. That is why they are known as dinoflagellates, because they are biflagellates. They contain 2 flagella. One is longitudinally and the other is transversely. So they have 2 flagella, longitudinal and transversal. That is why they are dinoflagellates. So these are important features about dinoflagellates. Third group, which is euglenoids. The third group is of euglenoids, and these are mostly found in fresh water and fresh water they are fresh water and they are found in stagnant water, not in moving water. So they are freshwater organisms which are found in stagnant water. Then their cell wall is surrounded by protein layer called pellicle. They also have two flagella, one long and one short. It's not their position that like in the previous dinoflagellates they have two flagella which is located one longitudinally and one transversely. No, they also have two flagella, but the difference is of their length. One is short and long. That's one is short and the other is long. And then they are, the mode of nutrition could be either autotrophic or heterotrophic, and the most important member is euglena of this. That's why they are known as euglenoids. So this is about euglenoids. They are mostly found, they are freshwater organisms which are mostly found in stagnant water. The cell wall is surrounded by a protein layer which is known as pellicle. They have two flagella, one short and one long. Their mode of nutrition could be either autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. So these are the four important features of the organisms which belong to euglenoids, which comes under kingdom Protista. Now we come to the fourth group, which is of slime molds. So fourth group is slime molds. Then they are mostly saprophytic in nature. These slime molds are saprophytic in nature. Then they behave differently during favorable and unfavorable conditions. So during favorable conditions they form aggregates, for example like Plasmodium, while during unfavorable conditions they form fruiting bodies and spores. During unfavorable conditions they form spores which are dormant in nature, and then they again become normal when the conditions become favorable for them. So they act differently under favorable and non-favorable conditions. So these are slime molds which are saprophytic in nature and favorable condition. Then they form aggregates, and under unfavorable conditions, then what do? They form fruiting bodies and spores. Which during this they become dormant in nature, and then they are mostly they possess true cell wall. They possess true cell wall, and they are extremely resistant to adverse conditions. Why they are extremely resistant to adverse conditions? Because during unfavorable conditions they become dormant and they form spores, and then again these spores can form various progenies of themselves when the conditions again turn favorable. So that is why they are resistant, because they do not actually die. But then what do? They become dormant. They exist as if they are dead, but they are not. They again become active, metabolically active, and they form number of progenies when the conditions become favorable. So this is about slime molds. And then we come to the fifth and the last group, which is protozoans. So these protozoans, they are mostly heterotrophic in nature, and they can live both as predators or as well as parasites. They can exist as predators or parasites, and they are further divided into four groups. these protozoans, they are further, sorry, the marker is not working. So these protozoans, they are further divided into 4 groups. First is amoeboid. What does this group include? They are mostly found in fresh water, and they possess pseudopodia. And what is the use of these pseudopodia? These pseudopodia is used for collecting or catching food. So like amoeba. So amoeboid. So you must have studied in your like 8th and 7th, 8th, 9th standard what are amoeba. They do not have a rigid structure, and whenever they see food, then there's outer wall. It surrounds that food by forming pseudopodia, and then it engulfs that food particle. So that is the characteristic of this amoeboid, which comes under protozoans. Then the second one is flagellated. So the characteristic itself, because of the presence of flagella, which is used for locomotion, so that is why they are categorized or grouped into flagellated. So the second group is flagellated because they contain flagella. And flagella, what flagella are used for? Flagella is used for locomotion or movement. Then the second one is ciliated, and again cilia and flagella both are locomotive organs, but cilia is you can say a more advanced or more advanced feature which is found in ciliated, with like more number of cilia, many copies of cilia are found, and it helps in both propelling the organism in either backward or forward or backward direction. And the example includes paramecium. So paramecium, and the cilia also helps in obtaining food. So it performs 2 functions. One is movement of the organism in forward or backward direction, and helps in obtaining food. That is ciliated. And the fourth and the final one is sporozoans. So they form spores. Sporozoans, they form reproductive spores, and they can be parasitic in nature. So for example, Plasmodium, which is the disease causing organism. What does this Plasmodium causes? It causes malaria, like Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium falciparum. So there are different species of Plasmodium. They are sporozoans in nature. They form spores. So what do the spores do? They, under unfavorable conditions, they become dormant, and when the conditions become turned favorable, then they again become active, metabolically active, and they produce number of offsprings. So these are the 2 kingdoms for today. Next, we'll discuss about kingdom fungi, plants, and animals in the next lecture. So I hope this was useful. You would have got all the key points. And if you still have any difficulty or any queries, you can ask me in the comment section or in the email ID. If you found the lecture useful, please hit like, share among your friends, and do subscribe to the channel for more such lectures. Thank you.